I wanted to have you guys on. This is a show near and dear to my heart because I've done really well at it the last 2 years, and we just need to see if I can keep that going.
Who was your biggest hit the last 2 years? Like, who was the one you just nailed?
Well, I'm 7-0 through
Woo,
the 2 years.
What?
I know. That's what I mean.
that's crazy.
I was surprised and went back and checked. Mina, you went 2-1 2 years ago, so you
Okay.
acquitted yourself well. We did 3 2 years ago. Did 4 last year. It's a little crazy. Under Giants and I can't even remember under Giants and Bears. I think over Chiefs when they going into 2022 when they won the Super Bowl and won a million games. That was easy. A lot have been safe. Eagles over I think in
Those
22
are pretty
as well.
easy.
It doesn't matter. I don't need to go over that. But I may have thought way too much about this and really struggled to decide who are my last teams because I like it so much. So why don't we start out? It's going to be draft style. Basically, we can each pick the over-unders of any team, an over or an under. But once someone else takes that, you can't take that. So we'll just go. We won't do a snake draft style. We'll start with Kevin because I think, look, he's a newcomer. And
Oh my gosh.
He's playing hurt with that sport
with
coat
that
on,
random
and so,
blazer
yeah.
and a map electoral college.
Yeah. Let's start with Kevin, then we'll go to Mina.
I have a question. Can we conceivably, if someone picks X team over, can we draft X team under?
Yes, you can.
Oh,
that would be
wow.
fun. That is a
Okay.
nice. I would love a challenge match. I
I'm
don't
probably
think that's
not
happened
going to
yet.
do that.
Yeah,
I don't think that's going to happen, but I just want to make sure that little
that would be fun.
that jujitsu is on the menu. All right, so I'm looking on my big board here. It's deep. It's a deep board. This is a good draft, but I don't know if it's necessarily top heavy. No one. And what's funny is like this is why Vegas makes all the money. Every time I'm like, oh, I really love this team. I'm going to look and it's, oh, well, Vegas pegged this fairly. Like this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
So there's one team I'm real high on that I feel like their total is low. It's a team, Mina, you know well. It's the Los Angeles Rams. And it's 8.5. I think, and I've gone over like Steven Ruiz, like the Aaron Donald thing is going to be so significant, blah, blah, blah. The defense is going to be fine. And the offense is developing into a juggernaut. I really do believe this. I was going through the NFL has a new product, NFL Plus Pro, I think it's called. And I was going through it this morning. I got access to it. And I was looking up like all the open numbers. Who has the most separation under play action? Well, it's Cooper Kupp. Like Sean McVay gets everybody open all the time. Like he's number one in all of those things. And there's a reason for that. Stafford, I'm not worried about his health. I think this is an NFC contender. And I think of that group of that tier A, they're the only one with a total that low.
Yeah, the schedule, I think, for the NFC West not even artificially, but it just depressed all their numbers. And you kind of find that going into the year, just which division has tough out of division schedules. And you're like, oh, why is that team so low? Why are all these teams so low? And so I think that's part of it. They weren't on my long list, and maybe they should be, because you're right. If Stafford's healthy, I feel pretty good about that number. For some reason, even though he's already back at practice, just that team's would collapse, I think, without Stafford, even with Jimmy G, and that worries me enough.
It's true of everybody.
That's fair, but I'm like more worried about Stafford.
Anybody we're picking to go over would collapse if they didn't have a starting quarterback.
It's true of everybody, but I think the Rams are more dependent on their offense being elite than some other teams because the defense is so young up front and
so young, but
the best player of all time.
I do think there's a floor with the young guys because I think the Verse and Fisk thing, the thing that we've talked about, Jordan Rodriguez reported that they knew they couldn't replace Aaron Donald, so they did it. I swear to get like.
I don't dislike it. I'm just saying I think that the Stafford thing is what scares me too. The injuries is really the only thing that scares me with the Rams.
Yes, and like so literally they went out and they said we can't replace Aaron Donald, but we can replace him in aggregate. And so they drafted 2 Florida State guys because they thought that the chemistry immediately would help them acclimate very quickly. Then they go out and they draft Cam Kitchens from Miami, who I believe is going to start, right? Like wasn't that the that was the rumor over the week?
I don't know if
he didn't dress in the last preseason game, which some of the beats took as a signal that he was at least going to get a lot of playing time.
I'll say that he's definitely going to play. And I really like the additions. I mean, you mentioned Cam Kitchens. I love the Cam Curl signing at safety. A lot of Cams back there. I don't dislike this pick at all. I just that's my only concern with the Rams is not just injuries to Stafford, but potentially you're hearing some injuries on the offensive line. Havenstein, Kupp's obviously coming off the injury. It's an offense that when everyone's healthy, I think could be the literally best offense in the entire NFL.
Mm-hmm.
So I am very high on this team too, but that is the concern.
How was Sean McVay in the booth in like your life? What was that experience like for you?
It was brief.
Wow.
Yeah. He also his headset wasn't working, so I had to give him my headset. So I actually didn't hear.
Oh no.
Yeah, it was I'm a team player.
All right, Mina, you go with the number 2 overall pick. Here we go.
Okay, this is boring because we talked about it, but I think Broncos 5.5 is probably the best.
Ooh, first one off the board. Love it.
Well, it's a team that had 7 Pythagorean wins last year, and I think upgraded at quarterback. Frankly, I think this version of whatever you think about Bo Nix and his ceiling, and that is a totally fair to debate. I think the floor that he gives you and that this offense is going to give you with him in it is better than what we saw last year. It was a defense that was a train wreck to begin the season, pulled things together, still finished like 30th in DVOA because of how bad they were at the beginning of the season. Hard to think they're going to be worse. Hopefully you get a full healthy season out of Baron Browning. I just don't see Peyton losing or winning fewer than 6 games 2 years in a row. I just don't see it.
And yeah, that like our producer Eric threw up the over-unders for the entire division if you're watching on YouTube. And yeah, it's one of the worst divisions in the league. It's weird to me that they're a game below the Raiders and 3 below the Chargers. Like that is a huge gap. The case against it would be, Bo Nix, not very talented. Skill position group on paper among the league's worst. I mean, you can make a case for Javonte Williams and some of the secondary receivers stepping up, but it's not that talented. And then defense, where's the strength? What are you excited about? They have a number of pass rushers, but no one that gets you really juiced up. And the secondary after Surtain, I was trying to think of a potential Marshawn Lattimore landing spot just because just on my radar that he left the first practice of training camp with like an injury and no one said anything about it ever since. And this was an issue between the team before. And maybe he is actually hurt. And he has a hip injury, which is very concerning for them.
That would be very
or
bad.
maybe there's just been bad vibes there and more going on. And I do wonder if the Broncos could certainly use a Marshawn Lattimore, but there's a million teams that could. All right, I'm going to go 3rd pick. I'm going to go back to, I shouldn't be doing this. Eric put up my picks from a year ago to me, and over on the Bills was one of them, and they barely snuck that out by streaking at the end. You asked what was my best pick. Going under on the Panthers last year. That was pretty strong. I'm going over on the Bills again. 9.5. This sometimes I think you shouldn't overthink these. Just look at their win total in the last 5 years: 10, 13, 11, 13, and then 11 last year. So that was starting in the Josh Allen first playoff season. Their point differential is always over 125. They've been top 6 in offensive points 4 straight years, top 4 in defense 4 straight years. Like they are objectively, by any measure, one of the best teams consistently in the NFL. So my main thing is kind of why not? I know the schedule is pretty tough in that division, in and out of division, but if we're doing this all just because Stephon Diggs isn't there, like, yeah, you can come up with some ways they've gotten worse over the last year, but they also have the best offensive line maybe of the Sean McDermott era. They might have the best running game. They've developed their cornerbacks pretty well. Christian Benford is a real player. We'll see, but every preseason they say Kaiir Elam looks terrible and is not going to ever win the job, and they're right. And then this preseason they're saying he looks pretty good, that he looks good. Greg Rousseau's popping up. So I get the strength of schedule is why their number is so low, but to me, Sean McDermott's one of the coaches that gives you a schematic advantage, Kevin, in some sort of way, and that's very consistent defense. And so I'm not overthinking. I'm going over Bills again. This is probably the last time or the first time they've been this low in the McDermott era.
I completely agree with you, and I believe McDermott has exceeded his win total in every single season. I believe that. I saw that stat the other day, which would track, frankly. I talked to Joe Brady, their new OC, or their vaguely new OC. This is his first training camp as OC in Pittsburgh a couple weeks ago. And I said, what are you doing? Like, what's keeping you up at night? And he was like, we want to be able to win every single way. Like, we want to be able to have like the James Cook way against Dallas. We want to be able to have Josh. They're not trying to change Josh Allen, but they're just trying to say like, all right, we need to be so flexible that we can win any sort of game. And I really do think that's possible. And I also think it's just because of the singular talent of Josh Allen. Like Josh Allen, we did this exercise on my show last week. Like there were I think there are 6 quarterbacks who are actually worth the money, who deliver value more than what they take away with the $40 million a year that you're paying them. I think there's about 6.